What's up, everybody? I'm super excited to announce that I'm going to be taking part in the hashtag 10 Tips, 10 Days Challenge. I was invited, luckily, by Kira Day, and I'm super excited to share my vantage point of what I think I can offer, which is how to be a good young salesperson. I mean, as many of you know, sales is a very difficult field, and there's a lot of different factors you need to navigate within that arena, and I feel like being young is an additional factor that needs to be navigated. So I want to share a few tips and techniques that I've learned and used that have helped me in that space. So the first tip I want to share is that education does not equal performance. And this is because usually when you're a young salesperson, you're coming straight out of school. And when you come out of school, you're green with all of this knowledge that you want to share and you feel like you're ready to conquer the world. You want to flex your mental muscles. However, that's not the full story. You need to obviously be well, educated so that you can understand what you're selling or trying to do, but then there's the actual execution and performance of that. So your education is not enough. So some techniques that I learned through my company include things like role playing or rehearsal within your mind and just different simulative techniques so that you can actually insert yourself in the situation, because it's one thing knowing what to say and it's a completely other thing actually saying it. And that's a big hurdle that a lot of salespeople need to get over. Coming at you with tip 2 of the hashtag 10 Tips, 10 Days Challenge. Today's tip about being a young salesperson is the importance of remembering names. And obviously it's important to know someone's name. If you ever want to have a relationship with them, you have to know what their name is. But in a business setting, I totally underestimated how important it was to remember someone's name just the second time that you meet them. Instead of becoming familiar with them, it's important to know it right off the bat. So I struggled with this at first, and I used a couple techniques to help out that I'm going to share with you. The first one is to use your own name as a trigger. And basically what that means is when you're introducing yourself to someone else and you say your name, you use your name as a trigger to focus up and be like, okay, I'm going to remember your name and I'm just going to put a little extra energy and focus into that moment so that you're more likely to remember it for a longer time. A second technique, and this is an older one, is when you're having a conversation with someone, to use the person that you just met's name in that conversation for a few sentences. So for example, hi, nice to meet you, Bill. What do you do for a living, Bill? Oh, that's great to hear, Bill. And then the more you say Bill, 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 the more it's going to encode and the more likely you're going to remember it the next time you see that person. What's up? Today is day 3 of the hashtag 10 Tips, 10 Days Challenge, where I am talking about some things that are important to know when you are a young salesperson. And today's tip is about people seeing things differently than you do. And this is just, something obviously that you've learned throughout your life, but in sales it's magnified because it is a purchase decision. And the first thing that you need to understand is a product of this is that you will get rejected. That is the way that sales works. Most of the time you don't close, you're going to be rejected. And sometimes it is because people just don't see it the same way as you do. Maybe your value proposition doesn't make sense to them. Maybe the way that you're positioning a sale isn't quite being understood by them. Whatever it is, you're going to be rejected. But the important thing is the way that you perceive it. Don't get discouraged, be like, oh, I'm terrible at my job, right? No, it's about taking the constructive criticism, improving your pitch, and then getting back on the horse and doing it again. That is the important part with rejection, is how fast can you get back on the horse. But the core reason that people see things differently is because we all have different lives with different experiences and we have different points of view. And that's just human nature. We see things differently, and as a result, our communication is different, we value things differently, and it's just a huge hurdle within sales because you're trying to express value to someone who might see value in a different way. So, what's up? Today is day 4 of the hashtag 10 Tips, 10 Days Challenge, where I'm sharing a few important things about being a young salesperson. And today's tip is don't complain. And specifically, don't complain about your age and being young. I am as guilty as anyone of having classic millennial problems like, oh, what's my purpose? Or how do I find fulfillment? And all of those things. And when in a work setting, when you're saying some of those things, it's just a millennial sob story. It's the equivalent of first world problems, it's millennial world problems. It is, in the scope of things, pretty insignificant, and your older colleagues won't really tolerate it that much because we have so much opportunity with our youth that people would kill and trade for. Having said that, it's still important to ask those questions because That's what I'm interested in doing with my life, and I want to continue asking those questions. So if you do so, make sure you just keep it to yourself. Obviously it's important to have mentors at work, and those are some people that you can have conversations with, but for the most part, don't rub it in that you're having these questions. Have them internally and kind of keep them to yourself, because a lot of people might be threatened or feel like you don't appreciate the opportunity that you have, or whatever it is. It's just best practice to keep some of these larger picture ideas to yourself. What's up? So today is day 5 of the hashtag 10 tips 10 days challenge, where I talk about the important things that you need to know being a young salesperson. And today's tip is about being old-fashioned. And this is really important because a lot of the people that are purchasing from you have earned their keep in their ranking within their company or corporate structure, and they have a respect for things being done the old-fashioned way. So if you want to be a good salesperson, you need to meet them at that request. So the first thing that I would suggest to you is to write things down with pen and paper. And I know that digital notes work and serve the purpose just as well as anything else, but there's some authenticity to writing things down the old-fashioned way on pen and paper that these purchasers really respect. Second thing is to overdress for the occasion. And this is important because you don't want to be the person that's underdressed. That's kind of the bottom line. And by being overdressed, you're being taken more credibly, more seriously in your role, and people aren't really doubting the reasons why you're there. And then last, and this is something that's important to me and something that I prioritize, is being prompt and actually even being early. It's an expectation to be there on time, but it's sometimes impressive to be there early. Tip 6 coming at you of the hashtag 10 tips 10 days challenge, where I'm sharing a few insights about being a young salesperson. This tip actually applies a little bit more about being a young professional in general, and it is about embracing technology because you will be expected to understand it by your older colleagues. And the first part with this is that you are going to be the lead contact whenever any new software or technology comes out. Your older colleagues are going to come to you first to answer these questions. So understanding that that is your role within the relationship is important, because then you're going to be better prepared to build that relationship. So how can you do that? It's all about being proactive and embracing the new technology as it comes. So if a new software comes out or new something, whatever it is, comes out, be proactive and learn it in detail instead of at a superficial level, so that when the opportunity does come and people do ask you how to do something or what you think, then you are most prepared to answer it in a good way. What's up? Today is day 7 of the hashtag 10 tips 10 days challenge, where I share a few important insights about being a young salesperson. And today's tip is about being a student of your craft. And this is because it's important to really understand and have a special interest in the subject matter that you are studying. And this can come in the forms of reading different specific magazines or publications and just being a holistic student around your craft. And this is because as young professionals, you have a little catching up to do because you don't have as much experience or industry knowledge as some of your colleagues or competitors. So that's the first thing I suggest, is to take a special interest. Then next, and this is more specific to a sales setting, is to ask questions that demonstrate your knowledge level. And you can really impress some of your targets or people that you're trying to convert with your questions, because it shows that you've taken a special interest and that you are a student of the industry and the craft that you are currently working in. And from there, that could lead to sales and building the relationships. So we've made it to day 8 of the hashtag 10 tips 10 days challenge, where I share insights and a little understanding of what it's like to be a young salesperson. And today's tip is about disarming customers through transparency. And this is all about just owning who you are, your experience level, and your age, and moving forward with that information. And the first and most important thing to do is to be honest about it. Get in front of the information, because if you lead with information being, hey, I'm young and this is what I understand and this is kind of where I'm at, that's a whole lot more of an advantage than you trying to justify that at the end, being like, oh, this is what I think, and yeah, I think this even though I have less experience. If you really own your age and you lead with that and you're honest about your experience level, you're gonna have a lot more success. And something that's associated with that is your opinion doesn't really have much backing because you don't have much experience, which makes you rely on quantitative measures and metrics to justify decisions. And when you present a decision maker with quantitative metrics, you're more serving them from an educational perspective rather than actually trying to sell them. And what this does is it allows a decision maker to come upon an original decision and an original idea of why they'd want to use the product or service. And there's almost a component of like sales inception where they come upon this reasoning that, oh, I want to make this purchase for this reason. And if you lead with the quantitative and the sales comes after, it's more natural than leading with the sales and justifying with the quantitative. We are on tip 9 of the hashtag 10 tips, 10 days challenge, where I share a little bit of what it's like to be a young salesperson. And today's tip is that you're always being judged. And I mean this more in your behavior. Your behavior is always being judged, and people are always have a keen eye to figure out exactly how you're handling certain situations. And this is because youth is associated with immaturity. So if you're doing a certain behavior, people are going to be a little more judgmental than someone who has a few more years, because there's that immaturity associated with it. So the first thing that I suggest is to just always stay turned on in a professional environment. Even if it seems casual, people are messing around with each other, it seems a little more social or whatever. I mean, you can lean into it a little bit, but make sure that you're staying professional and that you're staying in your lane, because you don't want to be doing anything that might be perceived as immature, because people are looking for it. So just stay turned on in a professional setting. And what goes along with that is be a good boy. Be on your best behavior at all times. And just do things that are appropriate and respectful. You don't want to stand out, especially as a young professional. Just make sure that everything you do is appropriate and you're on your best behavior. And then last, and this is more from a perception standpoint, is to be confident, because confidence is key. And the way that you display your behavior often changes the way people perceive your behavior. So by being confident, you're going to get a little bit more leeway, because you seem like you're more assertive in the situation, a little more comfortable in the situation, and all of the associations from that work out. So yes, we have made it to the 10th and final day of the hashtag 10 tips, 10 days challenge, where I share a little bit about being a young salesperson. And this tip encompasses all of the other ones. It is own your youth, and it's all about embracing your youth, because there is a lot of value in the youth that you possess. So first, you have a unique vantage point and view of the world that is different than anyone else, and your age contributes to that viewpoint. And it's important to embrace that, because you can offer value that no one else can. So really know that you need to embrace your youth, because it offers something unique. Also, something that you can do while you're young is you can build rapport with customers and coworkers by using major life events that they can relate to. So if you're getting married, you bought a house, I became an uncle, stuff like that. I share that with people, because then that's the beginning of a conversation that opens the doors to further relationship building. So that's definitely something that you could do with your youth as these moments come up. And then last, and most importantly, just life in general, not just the 10 tips thing, is be yourself. All these other tips talk about, be careful of doing this, or you should try doing that. But at the end of the day, you live with yourself, and your youth is a part of who you are. So just make sure that you're yourself, and people will appreciate and value you for that as well. So there it is, my 10 tips for the hashtag 10 tips, 10 days challenge. Thank you for taking part in this journey. I learned a lot about myself and the things that I've learned in the last 2.5 years while I've been a young salesperson, and I appreciate it. Please let me know if I can help out in any way and clarify. If not, use the tips and let me know. Thanks.